I think we need to start with Giannis here because we've talked a lot about how spectacular he was throughout this series, trying to overcome the Middleton absence and what you have called the best defense of this era. But at the end of the day, the Bucks did fall short. So does Giannis deserve any criticism for that?
Hell no. Absolutely not. Now, he didn't have a great night tonight, but I did think it was a product of all those things that I talked about. He came out absolute gangbusters, doing everything to try to steal this game in that first quarter, and nobody else on the team showed up. Literally nobody. And then, like we talked about, as the shooting started to pile up and become a problem, the wall just got more and more dramatic, and it just became impossible for Giannis at that point. Now, if there ever comes a time where Giannis can start punishing people over the top by knocking down consistent jump shots, then that's when that's when we're talking about potentially the best basketball player that's ever played the game, right? But like in this specific case, like to me, the box score numbers tonight were more a product of just the way the game unfolded. But this is my biggest pet peeve because, you know, I obviously I'm a LeBron fan, but this doesn't just apply to LeBron. This applies to all of the basketball players of this era because there is no Michael Jordan in this field. We don't have a guy that went 6-0 in the finals, even though Michael Jordan lost plenty of playoff series in his career. But yeah, how many of you guys are familiar with the 3-6 Mafia phrase that used to get thrown around all the time, referencing LeBron fans, right? And obviously 4-6 Mafia just doesn't quite have the same ring to it. But that phrase used to always bother me just simply in the sense that it was such a weird way to look at this particular sport. Don't get me wrong. Like, basketball is unique in the sense that one player can impact winning more so than any other sport that I'm aware of in terms of team sports. You know, even if you are Clayton Kershaw, the best pitcher of this era, if you can shut the other team down in game 1 of the World Series, that's great. We're not seeing you again till game 5. You know, like if we've seen Tom Brady with a bad offensive line lose in early playoff rounds, right? Like uniquely in basketball, one player can put a stamp on the game in ways that other sports that's not the same. However, even that only goes so far. Tatum is really good. We're going to talk a little bit more about him in a little bit. But Tatum is not nearly as good as Giannis. Not in the same stratosphere. Giannis, I think, is on a tier by himself atop the league right now. And he literally there was nothing he could have done tonight to win that game. And too often, anytime any individual player loses, and this is part of that stupid stan culture that's kind of taken over with NBA fans, where it's like, no, everyone just really like kind of aligns behind one player, and then everything that they do and the way they talk about the game is to denigrate all of his rivals and to uplift it's like apologists for they're just all apologists basically. And not only is it bad for just the way we talk about the game of basketball, but it's really unfair to these guys because it's just not realistic. It's not the way that this works. I thought Kevin Durant was the best basketball player in last year's playoffs. I thought he tapped into an incredible level of basketball last year in that series against the Bucks with his co-star injured with an ankle and his other co-star on a bad hamstring, and he damn near stole that series, but he lost. And I had Giannis fans calling me crazy for saying that I thought KD was the better player in that series, but he was. He played better basketball than Giannis in that series and damn near swung the outcome of a series that he had no business even being competitive in. And that's what happened here. Giannis had no business even being competitive in this series. I picked Boston in 5. They were a massive favorite before the series. There was no reason in the world why they should have even been playing this game today, except for how great Giannis is. 2018, so many parallels between that series with LeBron and the Celtics in 2018. Same thing. They're sitting in overtime of game 1 of the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. They have no business being there, except for LeBron tapping into something that no basketball player in 2018 could tap into. All 3 of those guys in those specific scenarios I mentioned, I thought were the best players in the world in those seasons. And none of them got the trophy. So as much as winning is all that matters within the team concept, and I'm big on that. I don't like, I don't like diminishing winning. because winning is all that matters. But that's within the team concept. Criticizing individuals every time they don't hoist the trophy, to me, is super disingenuous. It's unfair, and it's just lowbrow, the unintelligent basketball conversation. It's just not something I'm interested in. Like Giannis, to me, is unquestionably the best basketball player in the world, and he lost in the second round this year. Here's what I don't want to hear. Us having a GOAT conversation in 20 years and someone going, remember when Giannis lost in the second round in 2022? That's weak. No, it's not. He was the best player. Like that's just something that we got to ditch in the entire way that we talk about this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you philosophically, and we do see it very consistently. And I think to a specific debate, like after it was announced that Jokic was MVP, there was a lot of talk about, okay, but he isn't still here. And specifically Embiid advocates and stands pointed to that fact. But it really says a lot about the way that you lose. Obviously, Embiid lost in pretty humiliating fashion. Jokic lost playing basically an offensive masterpiece. And Giannis lost averaging 34, 15, and 7 against the best defense in the league. So I agree with you. I'll try to play devil's advocate a little bit. I think obviously this was a Herculean task, right? Because this team is just not equipped in terms of shot creation, like you've said. And it wasn't just Giannis. I mean, I think Drew had to take on much more significant offensive volume for a lot of this series than he probably would have wanted because they don't have shot creators elsewhere. But it is an inefficient series from Giannis. There's probably too many of the bad jump shots, and he only shoots 25% from three and 46% from the field. I don't know that you could really say that he forced it because it did feel necessary, but I know you said that he did everything, and I think that I largely agree. But is there anything that you would look at from this series and say Giannis should have done this better? And is there any part of you that resonates at all with the, well, I mean, a guy really does have to be held accountable for if his team comes up short?
Again, but here's the thing, Carson. Like, let's say that Giannis also has Kevin Durant's jump shot. Okay. So like he mixed in all these possessions is coming down and like pulling up threes off the dribble and making them.
Yeah.
First of all, now we're talking about a monster. Okay. We're not talking about an NBA player. We're talking about an alien. We are now building a created player in NBA 2K with the sliders all the way up who's 7 feet tall. That's just not realistic. Okay. Like that. Yeah. If that guy ever exists, then I don't know what's going to happen to the game of basketball. But the second thing is Milwaukee shot 4 for 33 from three tonight. And all of them were open because of Giannis. So here's the thing. Like, I think the best basketball player that I have seen live in my lifetime is 2018 LeBron. I still think MJ's the GOAT based on all of the film that I've read, all the books that I've read, and I trust people that were around during that time. But like I didn't see him with my own eyes live, okay? I watched LeBron James live in 2018, and that was the best basketball player that I had ever seen. I could have dropped him into this game tonight, and he's losing because his teammates are going to go 4 for 33 from three. This is a team sport. There is a dynamic. We always talk about that like cascading effect. It's like the more shots your guys make, the more things are opened up. The more they miss, the more things close down on you. What would inevitably happen if I dropped 2018 LeBron into this game is he'd be turned into a jump shooter because there'd be absolutely no driving lanes, because nothing would be open around the basket, because his teammates aren't knocking down open threes, and he might make 2 or 3 of the threes that Giannis missed and 2 or 3 of the mid-range pull-ups that Giannis missed, and they lose by 9 instead of by 15 or whatever it was. Like it's just not a realistic. It's people, and I get it. To me, where it becomes an issue is when you're looking at the Joel Embiid situation, where it's like, dude, you're playing a Miami Heat team that's not as talented as you. Like, now I have to look at the results with you. Okay, did some of your teammates not play well? Yeah, that's true, but you should have been able to overcome that. You had the talent. Last year when Embiid and the Sixers lost to the Atlanta Hawks, like, what's lame? Blaming Ben Simmons when you were playing, Trae Young and a bunch of role players and you lost at home in a game 7. Like that I can't look at. But like when you're watching a game and there's a clear talent chasm, It's not real. It's not fair criticism. Like my least favorite example of this is people will point to KD hitting a pull-up three over LeBron in Game 3 of the 2017 Finals as like some huge marker of him outplaying LeBron in the series, when literally that was the 15th consecutive game that Golden State team had won in the playoffs. They were undefeated in the playoffs. That's not any sort of mano-a-mano type of battle between KD and LeBron. That's the greatest basketball team ever assembled going against that Cavs team. It's a totally different vibe. And so, again, with this kind of stuff, it's just, I understand that it's part of like the take culture. And I understand that we, as a society, we love to lift people up when they win and burn them down when they lose. But sometimes it's more complicated than that. And that's all I'm saying.